So, hello, good evening, everybody. What a week! Wow. I know I haven't been on for a minute. I've been busy writing. I'm trying to get Chronicles 2 done, and amongst other things, I have a couple of projects going on actually. So, I haven't really been on, and what with one thing and another, but I'm trying to keep up with what's been going on. Anyway, so I'm very glad to hear some people have kind of seen the light and have I don't know if you'd call it a truce exactly, but they have come to common ground would be a better description. They found common ground, and so they've made like not a truce exactly. It's not kind of like that. I mean, what happened to make this happen was kind of catastrophic, literally. But I'm not going to talk about that. Let sleeping dogs lie. They've made peace with each other, and I think that's a great thing. Even though I said this about a month ago, I do believe, several times, in fact. And that's the thing. You men on here, you never listen to the women. No, you should have listened like a while back. But, I'm hoping that it continues, and, everything is calmer, if you will. But, you men sometimes really need to listen to us women. We're not all crazy. I mean, once in a while we have a good, decent nuggets to tell you, but it doesn't sink in till later on. But, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad everything's better, in that department. Now, when I was told this, it just reminded me of a while back. I'm going to tell you, my ex-husband, as I told you, was criminally inclined, and he never used to listen to me. I mean, very rarely, he would just do what he wanted to do. Anyway, so this particular time, though, he did listen, and I think he was glad that he listened, because what had happened was he had just got out. He'd done it 4 years, and he just got out. Now, kind of a little bit to the background to that, while he was gone, as always, it's like I'll tell you what it reminded me of. Like, it's almost like a scene out of Goodfellas. It's a different thing in England. It's not, it's not mafia at all, but it's the same type of rules and values type thing, kind of. There are some differences, which I'll explain, but basically, what happened is, while he was gone, when he first went, I was pregnant, and I ended up having the baby alone. Nobody really bothered with me. I didn't see all the friends and people that were around before were gone. I struggled, but, I got through it. And so, I can remember, I mean, the baby was 6 weeks old, and they had him, at that time, they held him at Wormwood Scrubs, which is a very old prison. That's normally where they send people. It's like a place where they go and they decide where you're going to go later. They moved him around a lot, but, he started off at Wormwood Scrubs. So when I had the baby, she was 6 weeks old, and he hadn't seen her yet. And so I had to get the bus, the train with my big pram. She was a little young to go out, but he really wanted to see her, so I went. And, now when he was out, he had a real nice car. It was at that time it was a XJ6 Jaguar with its own private number plate. And so as soon as he went in, his brother, who was a numpty, got the car. He immediately picked up the car. I mean, looking back on it, I should have said leave the car, because it's not really that I wanted to drive it. I really didn't. And the reason I didn't is because the car was well known. It had its own private number plate, and where we lived, it was, a bit of a flashy car to be driving around. And really, it wasn't that I wanted to drive it. It was that, I'd have felt better with it parked up, because the brother, he wasn't like my ex. He was bolshy, flashy, not a lot of common sense, and he didn't take care of stuff. I think he got in several accidents in his car. I mean, he had it fixed, but it wasn't the point. And he never offered me a ride, not at all. And in fact, I barely saw him. He would pop in and out, here and there. And nobody really, all the people that we knew kind of all, drifted off. And I think what pissed me off about this was, when my ex was out, and let's say one of them went away, he would check on the wife and give him some money, if they needed some money and whatever. And people owed my husband money, but you didn't see none of that. So anyway, so he gets out, and I don't think he was home 30 minutes, and knock at the door. It's his brother. Hey, what's going on? To say I was salty is really an understatement. I was livid. I was just thinking, I haven't seen this motherfucker in months. And, can he get home? Anyway, so I just got upstairs. I went off in another room because I was just like thinking, oh my God. Anyway, so I guess he gave him some money. Some people knew that he was coming out and they owed him. So, he brought him some money, which was fine. I could have done with it. And, so after he'd gone, my ex said to me, well, they're all going down the pub tonight, just to kind of do a welcome home type thing. And so I didn't really like that idea, mainly because I was salty with these people, and he used to always tell me, though, he said, I don't know why you're getting upset. He said, it's like a scene out of Goodfellas. We're on our own. When stuff happens like that, we're on our own. And on one hand, he was right. We should have put money away. We didn't. I used to always say that, and we didn't. We, as fast as it came, we spent it, and whatever. We were young, so I get that part. But he always helped, other people. But in any event, and he would visit. Not one of these people visited him. Not one. I think his brother did here and there, but not really. Anyway, so well, one time, let me take that back. One time, they'd moved him to Lewis Prison in Brighton, and I asked him, could he take me, because there was no way I could be dragging the baby up there and stuff like that. So he took me, but that's a whole nother story. That was a nightmare in itself. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so he said, we're all going down the pub. Now, the pub was in the East End. It was in Mile End, actually. And this was a usual thing, on a Friday, everybody met at the pub. If they did something, and it went well, they would meet at the pub. It was like a, celebration place. If somebody came home, like my ex, you met at the pub. So I wasn't particularly thrilled, but I knew he wanted to go. So I'm like, all right. So we walk in there, and it's to cheers, welcome home, whatever. And the thing with this pub, though, and it was like an unspoken thing, like we'd go in, the men would be over at the bar and the women would be at the tables, or the wives, girlfriends, whatever. Everybody kind of looked the same. They all had the fox fur coats on, and they're all talking about the women, the this is why Goodfellas, it reminded me a little bit of that, where you've got these like women, beaten looking women talking about oh my god, he'd kill me if I look at another guy. That's the type of shit they would talk about, or clothes or dresses, or where they're going on their next vacation. And so and the men would be at the bar. And so I was salty with all of them, to tell you the truth. I didn't really want to be there, but I was like, all right. So, I'm sitting down with the women, and I looked over, and there's this guy. I should call him Benny, right? Now, Benny, I won't say I grew up with him, but I'd known him forever. Good looking guy, really good looking guy, funny. Back in the day, they used to insist, how they have these grills where they put them in and they got all these teeth. He had this one gold tooth in the front. And so when he was talking, I was transfixed on this gold tooth. I thought it was I thought it was horrendous, but that was everyone like would get gold teeth. God knows why, but it kind of suited him, but not really. But anyway, so he's in there, and I see him make a beeline for my ex. They're all at the bar. They're all talking. And I'm watching him. Now, the thing with Benny was that as social as he was, as good looking as he, every time he came to our house, he'd always have a different woman on his arm. He was very Flash Harry, we used to call him, because he was always dressed nice. He was always the business. And I see him. There was just something, and I can't really explain what that was. There was just something there that used to bother me about him. Call it women's intuition. There was just something off, and I could never really put my finger on it, and I didn't dwell on it, because I didn't really see him that much. I mean, he would do bits and pieces with my ex, but not all the time. And that's the difference between like here in London, like here, you have a crew, and then if you want to do whatever, you have to answer to someone and ask if it's okay, I guess, and give him a kickback. There, that was different. My ex would do like certain things with him, but whatever he did on the side was what he did on the side. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't, it wasn't nothing like that. So I see him, and he's quite animated, and he's talking, and I was already irritated, and I'm listening to this claptrap over here, where they're going on their next vacation. Who cares? And I'm watching, and I get up. I'd finished my drink, so I got up and I walked over to my husband, and I just kind of stood next to him, and I said, "Are you all right?" He said, "You all right?" So they stopped talking. So he said, "Well, what's up?" I said, "Well, I want to get a drink, So they said, "Oh no, Josie, it's all right. Go sit down, girl. We're sending the drinks over," because that's what they used to do. The women used to sit there, and the men would send the drinks over. So, so at this point, I said, "No, it's all right." They said, "No, go sit down. We'll send the drink." I said, "No, I don't want to sit down." I said, "No, it's all right." I said, because, I've been getting my own drinks for several years here now. Why change the habit of a lifetime? And what I meant by that was, none of you fuckers were around before. Don't worry about buying me a drink. So I said to my, ex, "Give me some money," which he did. I said, "I'll get my own." And I went to the bar, and they fell silent. So I went to the bar, got my drink, went and sat down. And I'm watching Denny, and he's talking. And my husband was not a talker, really. He was more of a listener. He didn't talk very much. In actual fact, he looked like Michael Francis. That's who he reminds me of. He had the jet black hair, swept back. He dressed impeccably. That's who he reminds me of. But anyway, so it's time to go home. So we get in the car. So I said, well, what was Benny on about? So he said, oh, nothing. He was just talking. I said, don't tell me nothing. I saw, what was he talking about? So he said, well, keep it under your hat. He said he just asked me if I wanted to do a bit of work. So I said, because that's what they used to call it, work. Excuse me. So I said, well, what kind of work? What work? So he said, well, he'd been casing this high-end shoe store in the West End of London, high-end place. Now, this place, a lot of sheikhs, they would bring their harems and their wives over from Arabia, and limousines would pull up, they'd all pile out, and they'd buy like 10 pairs of shoes each. You know what I mean? And these shoes ranged anywhere from £600 to over 1,000, depending on the who was the designer and stuff like that. And not only that, a lot of celebrities went there and bought their shoes and whatever. And he'd been watching this place, and what he said was, at the end of the night, there was this skinny little fella that everyone would go home, and this skinny little fella would put the money in a bag and walk to the bank with it. And he'd been watching it a while, and he wanted to know if, my ex wanted in on it. So I'm like, are you joking? First of all, he just got home. He ain't been home 5 minutes. Secondly, so much could go wrong with this picture. So much. You're talking about the West End of London in the middle of not the middle of the day, but it was summertime. So it was still light at 5 o'clock. You've got all these people. Are you kidding me? Now you're turning into a bag snatcher. So he said, no, ain't that. Benny's taking care of it. He just wondered if I wanted to look out, or you're now reduced to a lookout? Are you kidding me? So basically, hell no. I said, and if you do that, don't expect to find me here when you come back. I mean, seriously, are you fucking kidding me? So he said, no, it's not like. I said, no. That bag snatching was not his forte. Let me put it that way. Not at all. I'm like, are you kidding me? He said, well, it sounds like a good. No, it don't. I don't care how much is in that bag. The whole situation was hell no. So he declined, thankfully, and we had gone to Spain. We went to Spain like a couple of weeks later because, just to get away and, be on our own for a bit. So when we get back, here we are, Friday night, we go to the pub. So we're all sitting at a table, it's a whole group of us. And so here comes Benny, and he sits, like, my ex is here, Benny's here. So I'm like pretending to listen to whoever was talking, but really I'm listening to what Benny has to say. So I hear him say, yeah, he said, that bit of work I was talking to you about. So my husband said, yeah. He said, well, we did it. He said there was just one little hitch. So he said, my ears are flapping. So he says, I said, well, what was the hitch? So he said, the guy, he was like 100 pounds apparently soaking wet. And he said, like, he followed him out, followed him down the road to the bank. He said, and when he went to snatch the bag, the guy hung on to it like a limpet. He wouldn't let it go. And he started screaming, ah! And people are milling around and looking. And so he had someone with him. It took two of them to get this bag off this little guy. And I'm just thinking, oh my God. Anyway, so on the way home, my ex said to me, he said, I saw you earwigging. He said, I saw your ears flapping. He said, did you hear what Benny had said? So I said, yeah. I said, I heard what he said. I said, and he was kind of like trying to say, well, you got that wrong. You know, they got away with it and they did very well out of it, apparently. So I said, no, you know, I don't think I got it wrong. You know, so much could have gone wrong with that. All right, he was lucky. He was lucky, you know, and that's about it, as far as I'm concerned. I said, that's not your forte. I don't even know why you even considered it, you know, because at this time we weren't broke. People that owed him money are now appearing, giving, you know, I said, you know, no, there's no need for that. And, you know, you ain't been out 5 minutes, you know. Anyway, so we go off to Spain. When we come back, we go, oh no, we'd gone to Spain, came back. That's when that happened. So about 2 weeks later, Denny's pinched, he's nicked. So it was the talk of the town. So see, the thing with Benny, what he liked to do was, he was the type of guy actually that would do anything. He didn't care, you know. And I'm not talking about raping people or mugging old women. Weren't nothing like that. But there was no fear in him far as other stuff. And what he liked to do, he liked to rob post offices. Now, in England, we have these like corner shops, corner stores. And what they do is they have like some of these corner stores have like a section that they make into a post office. It's the Royal Mail, and it helps subsidize the store. So you can go there and cash your checks, you can buy stamps. You know, it has the function of a regular post office, but not like here in America where you've got the building. It wasn't like that. It's within the store. And so he liked to knock them off because usually it was you know, elderly people that had these stores, or even if they weren't elderly, there wasn't CCTV back then, you know. There wasn't. And so whoever was in there, they, you know, go ahead. And so but the problem with Benny was he would go to these rural places, you know, out of London, but he would go back to the same freaking place, you know, or close to it. And so there was a spate of them in one particular area. And here he goes back to the same place again, you know, trying to knock off another one. And they were waiting on him. So, you know, I kind of said to my ex, you know, he said, well, you know, I'm not going to lie. He said, he did mention it to me. I said, well, you know, thank you. See, you know, all right, he might have got away with the bag snatching, you know, but I think 3 of them got nicked, you know. And but the thing with Benny, he wasn't a snitch or nothing like that. He was just like a bit of a loose cannon. And I told when he did the bag snatching thing, you know, I told my ex, don't use him in anything else because he was so he was volatile, he was nuts, you know. Yeah, that's what happened there. And that was the one time that he actually listened to me. Anyway, so I'm just going to talk right quick about Harry. I'd really be interested to know, a lot of you in England, you know, are watching from England. What is the man in the street thinking? I'm reading the newspapers. I know what they're thinking. You know, I think Lord Tishmarsh said it's balderdash, poppycock, you know, but what is the man in the street thinking about this? Me? I'm cringing inside. Cringing. I don't think Harry's lying. You know, he did feel that way. He was made to feel a certain way. I have no doubt about that. Um, that's how they roll. But you have to remember, I mean, this happened almost the identical thing 100 years ago with, you know, uh, Wallace Simpson and Edward VIII. And he gave up the throne. She was an American divorcee, and he was king, and he actually gave up the throne uh, for her. Now, this is Elizabeth's father, King George VI. That's Elizabeth, that's her father. And it's kind of an identical thing happened where, you know, well, kind of and sort of, but, um, you know, George was not prepared to be king. He was the spare, he was Harry. And then when uh, Edward, David, they called him, met Wallace, and he decided to abdicate. George was kind of thrown into the role, and the problem was he had a really bad stutter. He wasn't prepared to be king. He wasn't raised to be king, and so he had to learn real quick. And in fact, there's a movie called The King's Speech, which goes into that because he had such a stutter. He was terrified of speaking publicly and stuff like that. But they had this back and forth for years. David thought, okay, he's abdicated the throne, he's marrying Wallace, and he thought, okay, he'll be in exile for a few years, and then he can go back to England. Hold on 1 second, I'm just going to grab some water. Okay, hold on. Okay, so he thought to himself, they would be able to go back to England and it'll all, blow over. No. George really never forgave him, and he wouldn't allow him back. And there was talk then of if he came back, they were going to strip them of their titles. David was livid. He felt Wallace should be called Her Royal Highness, and they fought over that for years and years and years. And so this is kind of really similar to me. The thing with Harry, though, is obviously stuff went down there. It goes without saying. Do I think the royal family are a bunch of racists? No, I don't. I think there's some old like dinosaurs over there that, probably, had stuff to say, of course. But do I think that? No, they're very cultured. They've been all over Africa and wherever. I mean, I just don't. I don't get that from them. But some of the sly dropping things to the press, absolutely. The courtiers are worse than the actual royal family. It's the courtiers that are doing this. In any event, for Harry to talk about his todger, how he got frostbitten on his penis, how he lost his virginity al fresco with some older woman that slapped him on his butt like he was a young stallion out in the I mean, oh my god, I was cringing inside. I am cringing inside thinking about it. And I think it's because Diana kind of opened the door as far as saying what really goes on there. But I think it's still a shock to my system because you never heard this type of stuff from the royal family. And I'm just thinking, oh my god. And it's like, he's telling all these things that we would never normally hear, so it is a bit of I'm cringing inside over some of it. But he's allowed to tell his truth, and if that's how he felt, that's how he felt. He should be allowed to. His popularity, excuse me, his popularity in England right now is like a zero, and I feel a bit bad for him, and I'm sad about it because I think they were so close as kids, and they'd gone through this traumatic experience, and Harry's made some real digs at William, how shocked he is that how bald he is, he's not as bald, I'm not as bald as him, and just certain things. But him talking about his penis, and the worst part, I almost died when I saw it. He said he went to the Alps or somewhere or another, and he got frostbite on his penis, and he said his mother always liked this Elizabeth Arden cream that softened the skin or something, and he was in his room and he got this cream and he was rubbing it on his whatnot, his todger as he calls it, and he felt the presence of his mother. Really, Harry? I mean, oh my God, I'm cringing talking about it. I mean, really, no. No. But anyway, overall, he's allowed to say, if that's what happened, that's what happened. Some of it, I think he could have maybe left out. But, I feel a bit bad for him. I don't think him and William are ever going to recover from this. I really don't. Kate, nah. And Camilla, I know, is probably fuming. And I kind of actually, I kind of warmed to her a little bit as time has gone on, because I knew Charles loved her. He loved her from the beginning. He should have married her from the beginning, and he should have been allowed to. However, some of what Harry said, I'm looking at her, I'm giving her a bit of the side eye now. I am. But anyway, so I've been on here a little bit. Tomorrow I'm going to do well, we'll see what I'm going to do tomorrow. We'll see. I have something in mind, but we'll see. I've got quite a bit of other stuff to do, but I will get it done, and so I'll do a little interesting story tomorrow, just giving some background on some stuff, that's all. But anyway, everyone have a good night. That's it for me. And men, listen to your women sometime, okay? We're not always wrong, we're not always crazy, okay? All right, everyone have a good night.